Episode 2 for the day coming at you.
And here we are. Let's go, folks.
You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're covering Pennsylvania. So, Nora,
Yes, Lauren.
let's get scary.
Dee.
All right, so we're covering Pennsylvania this week.
Pennsylvania is special to me because I lived there for 3 years in Pittsburgh, and I really liked it.
You did live there.
Yes. And I made friends there, and I hope that they listen to this.
Oh, and this is our second episode today, so we're on a roll.
Yeah. We're getting things done today, folks.
We're getting things done. All right, Nora.
All right.
Tell us about Pennsylvania.
So Pennsylvania, nicknamed the Keystone State, or the State of Independence, joined the Union on December 12, 1787, and became the second state in the U.S. Pennsylvania got its name to honor Admiral William Penn and his son William Penn, who were the founders of Pennsylvania. Fun fact, there was a hotel in Pittsburgh called the William Penn.
Ooh, did you ever stay there?
I did not. It was a very nice hotel.
Oh.
I could not afford it, but one day maybe I shall. Their state food is chocolate chip cookies and milk.
I loved that.
I love it too. Weird laws. You are not permitted to sleep on a refrigerator outside.
Huh.
It is illegal to catch a fish with any part of your body except your mouth. Well, I saw a lot of people breaking the law there then. If you are in Morrisville, you better have a permit to wear makeup, otherwise it's illegal.
Oh, Nora. Did you ever go to Morrisville?
I have not.
Oh, okay. Then you're okay.
Good. A man named Larry Markwood was reappointed to the Industrial Board in Fayette County in 2015. He never showed up to any meetings, though. Why? Well, he passed away in 2012.
So they just elected him again for another term after he had already died.
Really awkward that they would do that.
Right?
In 1980s, these tiles called the Toynbee tiles started to show up across the U.S. 6 appeared in Pittsburgh. All of the tiles had a message that said something along the lines of, quote, 2001 resurrect dead on planet Jupiter, end quote. 2 have been paved over, but there are still 4 in Pittsburgh, with one on Forbes Avenue and one on Smithfield Street. That is in downtown Pittsburgh, and I lived very close to there.
Isn't that the weirdest thing, though? It was just these random tiles that would pop up with that message on them, and they were all over the country.
Yeah.
With most of them in Pennsylvania. It's just, like, so weird.
That's creepy. The Balleroy Mansion, which was built in 1911 in Chestnut Hill, has an armchair that belonged to Napoleon Bonaparte. 4 people who sat in that chair died immediately. Remind me to never sit in that chair.
Right?
The chair of death is now banned from being sat on.
There's another chair. It might be this one, but I think there's this other chair that it also had the same thing. If you touched it, you would die. So a maid accidentally bumped into it as she was cleaning it, and she died. And it got so bad. I think it was at a bar or something, and it got so bad that the bar literally hung it on the wall so no one could touch it.
Wow.
I don't know how they hung it up, though, because I wouldn't want to touch it.
Yeah,
but
I would not. According to research from Radford University and Florida Gulf Coast University,
the one we're always quoting,
Pennsylvania is in the top 7 states with the largest number of serial killer victims at 420 since 1900. I know, I just had to say this. There's like a interstate, like the Pennsylvania Turnpike has a lot of crimes happening at the stops. So I can totally see that.
Oh, great. I stopped at one when I came to visit you.
Great.
All by myself.
Oh, gosh. Pennsylvania is home to one of the youngest serial killers, Harvey Robinson. In Pennsylvania, there have been 3 identified serial killers and 2 unidentified serial killers. And I just have to say real quick, the coolest thing about Pittsburgh to me is if you go to weddings there, they have a cookie table. And how this started was like during the Great Depression, like that era, there was a lot of, poverty. People didn't have enough money to buy like fancy cakes for weddings. So instead, people would just bake cookies for the bride and for all the guests.
Wow.
And then it like became a tradition that people still bring them. Like there's like cookie tables with like hundreds of cookies. It's so cool.
Oh, I love that.
I went to a wedding in Pittsburgh that had it. Shout out to Abby, who I talked about a few episodes ago. But it was so awesome. And she had like Tupperware for us to like take cookies with us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So prepared.
Yeah. So that's a thing in Pittsburgh.
That's
it's
so
unique
cool.
to Pittsburgh, yeah.
So what I'm talking about today, I actually got the idea from one of my coworkers. Hi, Andrew. He sent in a listener story that I'm going to read at the end of this episode. And when I read his story, I was like, all right, that pretty much solidifies what I'm going to cover. So today I'm going to cover the Mercyhurst University. So Mercyhurst University is a Catholic liberal arts college located in Erie, Pennsylvania. It was formerly Mercyhurst College. So it was founded by the Sisters of Mercy of the Diocese of Erie and opened on September 20th, 1926. Mother Egan, who led the Sisters of Mercy and actually became the first president of Mercyhurst College, wanted it to be a masterpiece of harmony and the beauty spot in the Diocese of Erie. Architect F. Ferdinand Durang of Philadelphia was hired to create Old Main, which is one of the buildings. The architecture had an English Gothic design, and it had a look of medieval castles. So in 1950, Mercyhurst became a city landmark. On February 3rd, 1969, it became a co-ed college because it was just a females' college before. Then on January 25th, 2012, Mercyhurst College officially became Mercyhurst University. It has an undergraduate enrollment of about 2,404 students. So a fun fact, the movie That Thing You Do filmed a scene here. So on to the hauntings, because this place is soups haunted. So a lot of these I got from mercyhurst.edu, which I think is super, super cool that they embrace how haunted their place is. Like, I found all these stories on, like, the official university pages. Like, it's at mercyhurst.edu. Like, that's their page.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
That is.
So I'm going to go over some of the different haunted things here. One is the statue of St. Anthony, and it's said to be haunted. So St. Anthony is one of the most popular spirits in the Catholic Church. He is the patron saint of lost and stolen articles. He is known to be responsive to all people and all needs. So he seems like a great dude. So the statue is located on the 3rd floor of Egan Hall and stands in a window. The statue is visible from the entrances of Preston and Old Main. He is placed to face the residence hall, but it's said that if you walk past him at night, he will turn and face you if you have lost something. Wow. So this reminds me of the Remembrall in Harry Potter, like that Neville has, where, where the smoke turns red if he forgets something. And actually, what's super cool in that scene is you see him wearing just like his sweater. He doesn't have his cape on or like his robe on. Everyone else has the robe, so the thing he's forgetting is his robe. Oh, isn't that cool?
I never noticed that.
Yeah. Okay, I freaking love Harry Potter.
I do too.
So, okay, what's your house? Are you super nerdy? Do you know your house?
I know that it's Gryffindor because that's who I relate to.
Okay.
Gryffindor. Wait, how do you actually find it out?
There's a website called Pottermore. I don't know if it's still a thing, but you like...
Oh my gosh, I've heard of that.
I'm so nerdy. I'm sorry. So you test like... You take a test to what your house is, what your Patronus is, what your wand is. I'm a Ravenclaw.
I feel like I would be Hufflepuff.
I could see you as Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
You're Hufflepuff.
Thank you. As long as I'm not Slytherin, or else I would throw this computer. I'm just kidding.
But we love all people.
Yeah.
So Old Main also has a couple paintings that are said to be haunted. So there are many paintings that hang inside of Old Main. The pictures are of cottages in the Irish countryside. Well, the man who painted these ended up falling into a deep depression after he completed the pictures and ultimately completed suicide. So now the rumor is that he haunts these paintings and that he is actually looking out from the windows of the cottages that he painted. But the creepiest painting in this area is the painting of a little girl. It is said to be haunted. So the girl's eyes will follow you as you walk by. Sometimes they open and close, and at times they even glow red. Dang. No thanks.
Yeah, that's not my thing.
No, mine either. So the next is the wandering skeleton. So back then, houses and whatnot would have a room usually called the viewing room. So when we went to Fairy Plantation House, we slept in the viewing room. That was the room where I heard a freaking whisper, and my friends left me. Yeah, so me and Joe woke up without anyone near us. So that was the viewing room. So this is where, before the funeral, the body of the deceased person would be laid out. So it was a time for close family to say goodbye and just to get the body ready for the funeral and for burial. So after the funeral, the body would be taken away for the burial. Well, this room had been turned into the school president's office. So the story for this goes, a young widow's body was laying in this room waiting to be taken to its burial. Well, the weather that night was very severe. There was a huge snowstorm. So the funeral contractors who were coming to take the body weren't able to make it to Mercyhurst, which meant that the body would have to wait until the next morning, hopefully when the storm had passed. The next morning, the Sister Superior came back to the viewing room and noticed that the coffin in the room was empty. Her immediate thoughts were that the wind from the storm must have blown open the doors in that room and then blew the coffin open. But
a whole coffin? No.
Yeah, and I don't know if she knew there was supposed to be a body, because I think my first thought would be, why is there an empty coffin in this room? Yeah. But I don't know. But either way, the body was nowhere to be found. So when the Sister Superior then looked at the front door, she noticed a trail of footprints that led away from the coffin and out the door, so into the freshly fallen snow. The body was never found, but people claim that they see a skeleton-like figure walking through the halls of Old Main, which is near the former viewing room. So then there's the story of the ring. So this is like a kind of... So the background for this one takes place before the Second World War. So a woman named Dorothy, a student at Mercyhurst, was engaged to a young man named Tom. They obviously planned to get married because they were engaged, but then the young man was called to active duty. But tragically, right before the end of the war, Dorothy got the news no one ever wants to receive, that her fiancé had been killed in battle. She was heartbroken and decided to take the vows to become a Sister of Mercy. Before doing so, she took off her engagement ring, knowing that she would never need it again, and placed it on the finger of the Infant of Prague statue. The statue is located in the Christ the King chapel, which is like just to the right of the altar. So Dorothy worked as a confirmed nun at Mercyhurst for years until she received a letter. The letter was from her fiancé, informing her that he had not been killed, but had rather been captured during the war and had just been released. He also stated that he still loved her. Well, Dorothy knew that she still loved him as well, but now she was married to the church. So she wasn't able to marry him. This caused her to slowly lose her sanity, and eventually she had a very bad nervous breakdown. It was so bad that her fellow sisters decided that the best thing for her would be to keep her in isolation. So she was locked away in a tower on the 4th floor of, can you guess which building? Old Main. The woman remained in this room and was never able to see her fiancé again. She remained here until the early 1950s when one day she was found dead in her room. Obviously, rumors began to spread around the campus that this woman had completed suicide by hanging herself. Many of the sisters also claimed that they had indeed heard strange noises coming from the tower where Dorothy was staying.
Well, maybe they should have let her go to him instead of locking her.
Well, she made the vow. She made the vow to be married to the church.
It was a religious commitment.
Yeah, so
That's
she couldn't.
So hard.
She couldn't marry him, and she thought, she thought he was dead, which was just so tragic. So one sister shared a story that she had. It was nighttime, and she decided to head to the chapel to pray. When she entered the chapel, which was near the tower, she noticed another sister sitting near the front of the church. The sister who decided to pray said that this woman looked strange from the back. As she got closer, the mystery woman disappeared, leaving nothing behind but a strong odor. Of course, she was labeled as senile when she tried to share her story, but nonetheless, the chapel, as well as the 4th floor of Old Main, were labeled as a spot that should be avoided after dark. So fast forward, the ring that Dorothy had placed on the Infant of Prague statue remained there for years. But one student at the school, who was also recently engaged, decided that it would be very funny to steal the ring and have it on her finger when her fiancé came to visit her at school for a weekend. So she successfully stole the ring and had it on her finger, eagerly awaiting the arrival of her fiancé. While she was waiting, as he was supposedly on his way, the woman received a phone call. She answered the phone with the ring on her finger and received the horrible news that her fiancé had died in a freak car accident.
Oh, gosh.
She blamed the ring for his death. So she immediately returned the ring to the statue and left Mercyhurst forever. So it's said that now the ring is locked away, but sometimes it'll just reappear on the finger of the statue.
Nope.
Nope. So then we have the Smoky Nun. So in the 1940s, a nun passed away. Her favorite spot had been a spot that is now occupied by a large magnolia tree. So it's still just a spot on campus. So many people who go to this spot say that they see a woman smoking in a far corner of the courtyard. After she is spotted, she disappears. Then we have the story of a maintenance worker. So we just have a lot of hauntings here.
I love this.
So a maintenance worker had fallen to his death while working on the rotunda in Taylor Little Theater. He had fallen onto the pointed spout of a fountain. Out of respect for him, the fountain was turned off for many years. But for a celebration, the fountain was finally turned back on. The water
he died when he fell on it?
Yeah.
Oh.
So the water began flowing, a blood red. Rust and buildup was blamed for this, but it's...
I'm just going to say it was Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid?
Put Kool-Aid packets.
Yeah. But either way, it's still creepy.
Yeah.
So this maintenance man is still seen around the theater, usually cleaning. He is also known to move equipment around sometimes. Then we have the dancer. So 5 days after this maintenance man fell, a dance major also fell and landed on this same fountain. The girl could not remember the moments leading up to the fall and couldn't remember the fall itself. So immediately, the ghost of the maintenance man was blamed. But apparently after the fall, the woman again had a breakdown and ended up in a local insane asylum where she later died of natural causes. Her spirit is said to haunt the theater. Another rumor is that a dancer had hung herself while on stage while she was wearing a white dress. So it is now said that if you dance on stage in a white dress, you will leave the stage with blood on your dress.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy that this college had these stories on their website because I feel like that would deter people so badly from going there. It's like, okay, I can't wear red. I can't wear rings. Like,
I know.
oh my
I can't go to
gosh.
this place. I
I
can't go to
know.
this place. So Egan Hall is another place that is super well known for being haunted. So it is actually said to be the most haunted building on campus. It currently serves as the freshman girls' residence hall. So one girl had been killed here when a fire broke out in the hall, with another being badly, badly injured. The injured woman had been taken to the hospital. When she was done being taken care of, she asked to see her face and was appalled by her new appearance. She was known for being beautiful, and now she had, she didn't see herself as beautiful anymore. Supposedly, she shattered the mirror and went crazy. Her spirit is now said to haunt the hall. People have experienced cold spots, apparitions in windows, and unexplained broken mirrors all throughout Egan Hall.
Wow.
A group went investigating here, and it's actually a group who writes for this college's newspaper. It's so cool.
Wow.
So a group went investigating here and decided to use a Ouija board, which is a
Nope.
big ol' no-no from me. Absolutely.
Especially knowing how cray-cray your
not.
school is with history.
Yes. When I had my ghost hunting group, we would have new people come to our info meetings, and they would ask if we used Ouija boards, and I would look at them and I said, absolutely not. That is one thing we do not touch here.
It's like, do I hate my life? No. So therefore I will not touch that.
So absolutely not. So anywho, this group went to the girls' bathroom in the hall. They first started by asking the spirit if it was from the sun, meaning it was a good spirit, or if it was from the moon, meaning it was a bad spirit. Though the moon's not always bad.
Yeah.
So the board or spirit said it was from the sun, meaning it was good, and that it was a female. The two investigators then asked for the spirit's name. I shit you not, when it's spelled out Nora.
Stop messing with me.
No, I'm literally not even kidding, Nora.
You're lying.
Nope.
What do you mean?
So the spirit at this place was literally named Nora.
No.
I read this, I was like, oh my god, I have to include this.
Don't do this to me.
So at this point, a fan in the corner started spinning like crazy. Nora... Oh my god, and our AC just turned on.
I'm leaving.
So Nora then told the investigators that she was born in 1946 and is still at the campus for revenge. Her brother Duncan had killed someone, and she is waiting to get revenge on him. So look, you don't have a brother named Duncan.
And I wasn't born in 1946.
Right? And I mean, you're good. So I just saw that. I was like, no way.
That's insane.
So I have mentioned Old Main quite a few times, and it's being haunted. So the group of investigators ran into a student who told them that once he walked into Old Main and heard a piano playing, though he didn't see anyone actually sitting at the piano playing. Another student said she was working a phone-a-thon, so I guess like a call thing, and a huge gust of wind swept through the room they were in, blowing papers and other materials all over the place, but all the windows were shut. So she said they ran out of that room real quick.
Wow. It was Nora.
It was Nora. Then there's the Gray Nun. In the early 1800s, typhoid fever swept across the country. Erie was one of the locations that suffered greatly from this fever. Sisters from St. Joseph ran the hospitals in the area to care for the sick. At least 20 people passed away from the fever and were buried on the property of Mercyhurst. Today, people have reported seeing a nun dressed in a white nurse's outfit standing in the upper corner of the quad. She is only reported as being seen on cold and rainy nights. It is believed that this nurse is still caring for lost souls. Then we have Grotto Pond. So this is a rumor that many, many years ago, when Mercyhurst was first opened, a nun was walking around a pond and lost consciousness. She fell into the water and drowned. Well, as freshmen are freshmen, they thought this was a hoax and dared one of their friends to look into the pond at night. Not believing the story at all, the girl went to the pond at night and looked into the water. Staring back at her was the face of a nun. The girl then felt a strong force behind her push her into the pond. Thankfully, her friend was there to save her. After this incident, apparently, the pond was completely drained. Once all of the water was out, a large amount of animal bones were found at the bottom. No one explained how these bones got to the bottom of the lake, but it is rumored that occult rituals took place in this area. The body of the nun was never found.
Oh my gosh.
But also after the lake was drained, they did find the bones of a young girl who had gone missing many years prior. So people also claim to see her walking around. Then our last super close haunting is Louis the Laker. On February 21st, 2015, a strong winter storm hit Mercyhurst University. Temperatures dropped into the single digits. At 3 p.m. that day, a water main burst in the Carolyn Herman Student Union. The cold water quickly began to flood the building, while a man named Louis, who lived in the basement of the union, quickly sprang into action to try to handle the situation. Sadly, Louis passed away, but his work didn't go unnoticed as he was able to stop the water and was able to keep the rest of the area from flooding. Louis is now seen around the dining halls, at the Roost, or just around campus. They say that his ghost still roams to, quote, ensure that all Lakers are seizing the day.
Oh.
Okay, so the coworker I talked about earlier, my friend Andrew, sent me in the experience he had at Mercyhurst.
Oh, yeah. That's the same place? So that's where he went?
Yes. Yes. So after reading his story, I was like, this is what I'm covering.
Yeah.
All right, so here's his story. It says, quote, "Hola, ladies. As promised, here is my story. I went to undergrad at Mercyhurst College or University and made the transition when I was there in Erie, Pennsylvania. We had a lot of haunted lore at MU, but I've only personally experienced one, the smoking nun. Mercyhurst lore says that there was a nun who loved this little grove garden outside Christ the King Chapel and preferred to smoke her cigarettes there. Legend has it that you can see her there smoking at times, even though the campus is now smoking free. My story begins as I'm leaving the library at 1 a.m. No, I'm not a studious person. I was procrastinating, and the language lab due the next day in class is only available at the library. It's because of this fact that I remember it was Friday morning at 1 a.m. It was in the winter trimester, and so naturally, there was a good 6 inches to a foot of snow on the ground, and it is cold in Erie, Pennsylvania. It being cold and 1 a.m., I decided to take up an offer to crash at my friend's house, which was much closer, and I let her know I was on my way. While walking up the steps approaching the grove, others call it a garden, but I've always thought of it as a grove, I noticed the smell of cigarette smoke and thought, who the hell is smoking at this time of night and in this cold? I walked past the grove and looked in and saw a nun in full habit sitting and smoking. Knowing of only one nun on campus who smoked, I called out, Sister Mary Paul, what are you doing out here? Are you okay? At this point, I realized that this was not Sister Mary Paul, as she did not have her dog, who seemingly accompanied her everywhere, and more to the point, she did not appear entirely solid. The nun stood up and looked at me, and, me being thoroughly freaked out, I bolted. I sprinted straight to my friend's apartment, where I was met by my friend, now my wife, and her roommate's boyfriend, who noted I looked pale as hell and terrified. Oh, that's terrifying.
Good for him for running and not trying to investigate.
Right. So he goes on to say, the next one comes from a friend who I will simply refer to as Bear. For a little background, Mercyhurst does not support fraternities or sororities on campus. The reason for not using his name is because the group Rho Mu Beta PMB is a secret society on campus dedicated to preserving the lore and histories, both positive and negative, of the school, and has been around since 1979, about 10 years after men were first admitted to the college. I'm replacing the name of one person he could not remember the name with, Stan. So this is Bear's firsthand account. So this is coming from Bear. Mm-hmm. So a group of us, the group that would eventually be inducted into PMB, were roaming around at night up to no good, just being bored college students who didn't really party. We were coming back from the main gate, and someone swore they saw a light in the top floor of Egan, a flash of red. Looking back, it was likely a smoke detector hitting just right. But it sparked our interest, and so we were standing in front of Egan's main door milling around. Stan was standing in front of the door looking up, arm kind of out to his side, and I turned just in time to see him lift up onto his tippy toes and then go off balance. Stumbling forward but catching himself, and we're all like, WTF? He says that he heard a voice, a child's voice, say, come with me, and he responded, okay, and he felt something take his hand and pull him, but he freaked out a little and it let go, and Zin, a very serious person to begin with, says, in the most serious voice he has, if you hear a voice say, come with me, you say no. We kind of laughed about it and moved on to find other shit to do, wander around, scope out if we could see the smoking nun or whatever. We couldn't, and we decided that the grotto was the right place to go. It's probably an hour later at this point. We're swapping histories of the place, talking about the Mary statue and its various smashed predecessors buried underneath, when Zin gets all quiet, and I see him standing rigid and straight up, and he says quietly, guys, it's holding my hand. What? The child, it's holding my hand. What? He said, it spoke to me. It wants to hold my hand. And sure enough, his arm is at his side like you would hold a child's hand. I call bullshit and go stand exactly where it would be, right next to Zin. Not 2 seconds later, I get a feeling of pins and needles all over. Literally all over, like the feeling of a foot falling asleep, but across my entire body. I panic and jump away. I'm told my eyes bugged out, and I had a terrified look on my face when it happened. At that moment, I was a believer. After doing research, all of which has some level of unverifiability, when Mercyhurst was a women's college, home economics was one of the biggest majors, and Egan was a girls' dorm. There were Mercyad stories throughout the 90s and 60s of professors or families of the sisters bringing in their children to hang out all day. The girls learned a bit about childcare, the adults got free babysitting, win-win. But there was one story of a child who died. The Mercyad didn't say much, but some of the other stories, including Haunting Hurst, mentioned that he had fallen down the Egan steps, and numerous ghost stories existed, some I heard personally, of hearing someone running down the halls of the 3rd floor.
Oh
that kid. Nobody mentioned the kid appearing anywhere else, but it just made too much sense to me. Then this is Andrew again. Hope you enjoy the stories. I have one more from him, but it's not as long as the others, but I can still send it in with the accounts of my roommate who had a similar experience. So that is from my coworker, what his experiences at Mercyhurst was. So they seem to really appreciate, Mercyhurst University seems to really appreciate their spooky and haunted school, and they really embrace that with haunted tours and other spooky activities, which is really awesome.
I wonder how far that is from us. We should go.
I don't know. We should.
Because parts of Pennsylvania aren't too far.
Yeah, actually. Wow. But yeah, so that's Mercyhurst University.
I love it.
Yeah.
I've loved the stories from people you know. That's so good.
I know.
That's
because he's our first and only person who has sent us a listener story. Yeah. So I was like, well, I don't want it to just sit there and us not do anything with it as we're waiting for people to send us emails to ascarystatepodcast@gmail.com with their experiences.
Hint, not judge.
Yes, come on. So I was like, well, I have to read it at some point. And so I was like, well, we're going to do Pennsylvania. That's why I chose it, because you lived there and he had sent us a story. So I was like, we have to do Pennsylvania. And then when I was deciding what to choose, I was like, heck, I have a story from Andrew. I'm just going to read that and do Mercyhurst.
Yeah.
So it just worked out perfectly.
Yeah. Hey everyone, have you ever had the idea to start your own podcast but had no idea where to start? We had no idea either until we found Buzzsprout.
It is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Buzzsprout has made our experience with podcasting both fun and stress-free by listing our show on all major podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few.
You'll get a great-looking podcast website, audio players that you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how and where people are listening, tools to promote your episodes, and much more.
Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you, gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and helps support our show.
Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout.
And remember to stay scary.
Stay safe. Awesome.
All right, Nora, what do you have for us?
All right. So my story this week, before I go into it, I want to quickly explain what the Amish community is, especially for like international listeners, because I don't know what you know, so I just want to cover my bases. So the Amish are a group of traditionalist Christians of Swiss German descent. And between 1717 and 1750, about 500 Amish people came to Pennsylvania from Germany and Switzerland.
I don't know why, but at work yesterday, we literally were talking about Amish people, and we were talking about that thing they do where they can like leave and decide if they want to stay out or come back.
Yeah, when they're like 20 or something, or 18. I forget what it's called. It's like a hard word to pronounce.
Yeah.
It's like Mormashrosh or something.
I'm sure that is exactly it.
But yeah, so there's actually a show about that.
Yeah.
It's a good show. So, like I said, between 1717 and 1750, about 500 Amish people came to Pennsylvania from Germany and Switzerland. And the Amish are closely related to the Mennonite community.
We had Mennonites near JMU. We had a Mennonite university.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's also a lot of Mennonites in Florida. Where we went was like Siesta Key area. There's a lot of Mennonites.
I did not know that at all.
Yeah, so, but Mennonites are more relaxed in a way, like compared to Amish.
Mm-hmm.
They're a bit more liberal in their beliefs when compared to Amish, and they also can use cars, electricity, and etc., but the Amish cannot, which is why they're referred to as Old Order Amish, because they're like more old-fashioned about their beliefs.
Okay.
So the Old Order Amish value simple living, plain dress, zero technology or electricity, no cars, and they ride a horse and buggy everywhere, and they live somewhat in isolation from the rest of the modern world.
When you would go to stores in Pennsylvania, would you see the horse and buggy parking spots?
Yes. Even like the Walmart had them.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is a large community of Old Order Amish in Pennsylvania. So today, Lancaster, Pennsylvania is home to the largest Amish community in the state. And that's where our story takes place. On October 2nd, 2006, a man named Charles Roberts IV, age 32, lived in Georgetown, which is in Bart Township in Lancaster. Charles was not Amish, but he was a milk tank truck driver who served several Amish farms in the nickel mines area of Lancaster. He had 3 children and a wife. One day, coworkers started noticing a change in Charles, but then suddenly he returned to normal. So his mood was even unusually upbeat and jovial.
Mm-hmm.
So what his neighbors, coworkers, and family didn't know is that Charles was planning something awful. The calm that Charles was exhibiting was during a period right before he would commit a horrific crime.
Uh-oh.
Charles. So on this fall morning of October 2nd, 2006, Charles and his wife walked their children to the bus stop before she left to work, which was a normal thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
When Mrs. Roberts returned home a little before 11 a.m. that day, she discovered 4 suicide notes from her husband.
4.
4.
Okay.
One was addressed to her, and then one for each of their 3 children.
Oh.
Right after that, Charles called his wife from a schoolhouse on his cell phone and told her he had done horrific things to 2 young female relatives 20 years previously when he was 12. I won't go into detail there, but he told her that he had been thinking of doing horrible things again. By the way, quick side note, 2 days after this, the 2 relatives who Charles claimed to harm 20 years earlier told police that no such abuse ever happened.
What?
I know. It's so weird. But right after Charles's wife arrived home, saw the suicide notes, and spoke to Charles on the phone, she called 911.
Well, yeah.
So Charles had backed a pickup truck up to the front of the Amish schoolhouse and entered it at approximately 10:25 a.m., shortly after the children had returned from recess. He asked the teacher, Emma Mae Zook, and the students if they had seen a missing clevis pin on the road.
What's a clevis pin?
It's like similar to a bolt. It's used in construction.
Okay.
So it looks very similar to a bolt.
Okay.
Survivors said he mumbled his words and did not make direct eye contact.
Ew, I don't like how you said survivors.
I know.
Ew.
Yeah. After they denied seeing a clevis pin, he left to his truck and re-entered the schoolhouse holding a Springfield Armory XD 9mm handgun. He ordered the boys to help him carry items into the classroom from the truck. Mrs. Zook, who was a school teacher, and her mother, who was visiting, took this opportunity to escape and run toward a nearby farm for help. Robert saw them leave and ordered one of the boys to stop them, threatening to shoot everyone if they got away. This guy's a total psycho.
Jeez, and making kids do that.
I know. Mrs. Zook and her mom reached the farm, where they asked a man named Amos Smoker to call 911. Meanwhile, the boys carried lumber, a shotgun, a stun gun, wires, chains, nails, tools, a small bag, and wooden board with multiple sets of metal eye hooks into the schoolhouse.
Jeez.
The bag held a change of clothes, toilet paper, candles, and flexible plastic ties. Using wooden boards, Charles barricaded the front door.
Oh, no.
The police were now starting to arrive on scene, and while waiting for reinforcements, they attempted to communicate with Charles via the PA system in their patrol cars.
That's smart.
They asked Charles to throw out his weapons and exit the schoolhouse, and Charles refused, and he demanded that the officers leave.
Yeah. Hi, can
Obviously.
you guys please leave?
Yeah. By 11 a.m., a large crowd, including police officers, emergency medical technicians, and residents of the Amish village, had assembled both outside the schoolhouse and at a nearby ambulance staging area. So obviously, word is spreading quickly.
Yeah.
People are knowing that something's going on.
Yeah. I feel like it would be weird for the Amish people to be in a place where there's all the technology.
I know. They're like, what is this?
Yeah.
Just trying to live their lives, and then this guy comes in. So even though county and state police dispatchers had briefly established telephone contact with Charles, he continued to threaten violence against the children during the call. At 10:55, Robert was reaching the final stages of his plan.
Uh-oh.
He had arranged the girls in the schoolhouse, who were now bound, at the front of the classroom near the chalkboard. Next, Charles called the police and warned the 911 dispatcher that if the state police were not off the property in 2 seconds, he would kill the children. The dispatcher attempted to delay him and put him in touch with the state police, but Charles ended the call.
Oh.
Two of the girls then began negotiating with Charles. They pleaded for him to shoot them first because they wanted to allow the other girls a little extra time for possible rescue.
Oh.
Which is the most selfless thing you could ever do. They were, the two who did this, they were sisters, and their names were Marion and Barbara Fisher.
They were raised so well.
I know. They were only 13 and 11.
Oh.
And unfortunately, they were shot.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And eventually, police were able to enter the schoolhouse by breaking down all the glass windows and storming in. And then Charles shot himself and died instantly as police were storming into the school.
So the girls
coward.
Yeah. So the girls did save everyone pretty much?
No. A few people did die, but their efforts, like,
yeah.
I mean, it did buy some time, you know? So all the wounded girls were taken to the hospitals. 2 had died at the schoolhouse. One was pronounced dead on arrival at Lancaster General Hospital, and the 2 sisters survived until the early hours of October 3rd when they were taken off life support.
Oh,
I know.
Heroes.
Seriously, true heroes. So that makes 5 girls killed total, and the surviving victims of the immediate attack were brought to Lancaster General Hospital, stabilized, and then transferred to hospitals with pediatric trauma care.
Did he only have girls in the room with him?
Oh. He sent out all the guys because he was, like, sick. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't see that anything happened other than, you know.
But still, like, you know, like.
It's like, what were you planning?
Yes.
So literally, thank God that teacher was able to get away and call 911.
Yes.
Because at first I was like, well, that's kind of messed up that she left the kids. But
yeah.
I mean, it could have been worse if
and
she
it's so horrible nowadays, too, with all, like, the school stuff that's going on. Like, one of my best friends is a school teacher, and she's had to assure her kids a couple times throughout the years, like, I will not let anything happen to you guys.
Aww.
Yeah. That's horrible. That's never something you should have to say.
And also, like, your teachers, you shouldn't have to say that. Your focus should be on teaching.
Yep.
A lot of the girls were stabilized, but like I said, 5 of them did die. And then, you know, he died too, so 6 total. The ages of the victims ranged from 6 to 13, and according to the Washington Post, police and coroner accounts of the children's wounds differ dramatically. Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner Jeffrey B. Miller said Charles shot his victims execution style, which is so disturbing. A lady named Janice Ballinger, who was a deputy coroner in Lancaster County, counted at least a dozen shotgun pellet-inflicted wounds in one child alone before asking a colleague to take over and continue for her. She couldn't deal with it.
Oh.
I know.
That would be rough, trying to deal with, like, any cases that involve children.
Yeah.
That would be rough.
I could not. Like, honestly, I probably won't even be able to do a story with a child, like, ever again.
Yeah.
This is it.
I mean, we listen to a lot of podcasts where when they have to report about children, it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And, like, it goes back to the issue of gun violence, too. But inside the school, Ballinger said, quote, there was not one desk, not one chair in the whole schoolroom that was not splattered with either blood or glass. There were bullet holes everywhere, end quote.
Jeez.
As a result of their actions in the line of duty, State Police Commissioner Jeffrey B. Miller presented the State Police Medal of Honor to 10 Pennsylvania state troopers in appreciation for their efforts to assist the victims.
Aww.
The officers and emergency personnel received, like, awards, and, you know, I'm sure they probably needed psychological help after that, too.
Oh, yes. Especially if any of them probably had kids or anything.
Yeah. Definitely. Now I want to talk about the aftermath of the shooting. So during interviews conducted later, it became apparent that all of the girls recognized the danger they were in. Some conversed among themselves throughout the ordeal, but despite all this, on the day of the shooting, a grandfather of one of the murdered Amish girls was heard warning some young relatives not to hate the killer, saying, "We must not think evil of this man."
I get it.
I couldn't.
Where he's coming from.
Yeah.
I get not holding grudges and not holding, like, hate towards people. And it is amazing for people who are able to forgive those who have done something horrible to their family members and forgive them. I know who I am and I could not.
Yeah, same.
Like, I get for some people, they say, like, if I didn't forgive them, my life would be over too. And I get that, and that is incredibly strong of the people, but I couldn't.
For me, it's like on the day of, do not ask me how I feel because I will claw someone's eyes out if that's my family member. Like, the fact that he could do that on the day of
it takes a lot of time. Like, grief is different for everyone, but I know how I handle it. would take me a long time.
Yeah. And like the famous words of Lauren Conrad from The Hills, I forgive you, but I won't forget it. Oh, wait, no, she said, I forgive you and I'll forget you.
Oh.
That's what I would say to this man in court if I ever faced him.
Nora.
But despite all of this, on the day of the shooting, oh, wait, I already said that. Later, a Roberts family spokesman said an Amish neighbor comforted the Roberts family hours after the shooting and extended forgiveness to them. Amish community members visited and comforted Roberts' widow, parents, and parents-in-law. One Amish man held Roberts' sobbing father in his arms, reportedly for as long as an hour, to comfort him.
Dang, this community is very, very much better than I would be able to handle things.
Same. The Amish had even set up a charitable fund for the family of the shooter, and about 30 members of the Amish community attended Robert's funeral. Charles's funeral.
Like, okay, I get forgiveness. I get all that, but I am telling you right now, I would not be there.
I would not be there either.
No.
No. There's other things I would be doing that day, not going to his funeral. Marie Roberts, the widow of the killer, was one of the few outsiders invited to the funeral for one of the victims.
Oh, for one of the victims.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Marie Roberts, oh, and by the way, so you know they set up this charitable fund?
Yeah.
Well, the Amish don't believe in charity. So it was like a huge thing that they did this.
Oh, wow.
Set up the fund.
Yeah.
Because they, like, the Amish community, they believe in, like, helping each other, but not, like, necessarily charity. It's, like, more of, like, a team thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it takes the village kind of thing.
Exactly. So Marie Roberts wrote an open letter to her Amish neighbors thanking them for their forgiveness, grace, and mercy. She wrote, quote, "Your love for our family has helped to provide the healing we so desperately need. Gifts you've given have touched our hearts in a way no words can describe. Your compassion has reached beyond our family, beyond our community, and is changing our world. And for this, we sincerely thank you," end quote.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's good that she was able to heal. And I don't know if she would have been able to if they weren't so, like, you know, compassionate towards her.
Yeah.
Not saying, you know, you or I would be able to be compassionate, but these people were, which
they
is
just
pretty
have
impressive.
big people on each side.
Yeah. Oh, and so along with the charity that they created, Richie Lauer, director of the Anabaptist Foundation, said the Amish community, whose religious beliefs prohibited them from having health insurance, will likely use the donations to help pay the medical cost of the hospitalized children, which is really good.
Yeah.
So,
because oh my gosh, if you think about it, not having insurance,
$1,000 for like a basic procedure,
yes.
probably. It's if I'm sure the whole world knows how messed up America's health insurance is. Even with insurance, things are so expensive.
Okay, this is what's sad. People have decided that it is cheaper to call an Uber to get you to the hospital rather than calling an ambulance.
Yeah. An ambulance is like $1,000.
$1,000 in the U.S.
Yeah.
Which is just, it blows people's minds in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
It blows my mind that we have to pay that much for an ambulance.
Yeah. Wait, I just have to tell this story real quick about healthcare. So my dad was going to Australia for vacation, and right when he got there, he got appendicitis and was super, super sick.
Oh.
And they had to take him to the hospital, and he was like, how am I going to like pay for this? I don't have insurance here. And they were like, that's your concern right now? Like, why are you worried about that? And he's like, because I know it's going to be a lot. And they're like, just don't worry about that. And so then he's like, well, where am I going to stay? Like, I have no one to take care of me. Literally, one of the nurses took him in for like a week and took care of him. Like, that's just how other countries are.
Yeah, I was watching, I don't have TikTok, but my brother has TikTok, and I was like watching it. And there was this one girl, and she had traveled to Italy, and she like went to the hospital, and she was like, oh my God, like, how much is this going to cost? Like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, what are you talking about? And she's like, how much is this going to cost? Like, I'm at the hospital. And they're like, it's free. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And she said it was the biggest culture shock going to a hospital and being treated how you needed to without having to pay money.
Yeah. Because, I mean, when you're really sick, that should not be a worry.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah. But I did think it was interesting, though, how easily the Amish forgave Charles and were, like, super kind to Mrs. Roberts and her family. Because in the Amish community, like, they will shun you if you go against the Amish ways. Like, they will shun you like this so quickly.
Interesting.
So, like, if you're driving a car, for example, when you're Amish, you could be shunned and never seen as part of the community ever again.
Wow.
So I think the Amish are like really forgiving to those outside of their community.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to keep their strong values intact, you know, there's a reason they've been able to continue like that for so long. So they have like strict consequences in a way. So I know that doesn't really have anything to do with the story, but I just find the Amish community so fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I have done so much research about it and like watched documentaries on the Amish, and like it's just crazy that they're able to like stay the way they are even through the technology era. Like 200 years from now, our future generations are going to look back on this time and it's going to be the technology era. Because think about 50 years ago, we didn't have any of this.
And it also makes you think what's going to be here in 50 years. Like 50 years ago, not 50 years ago, but like at least like 40 something years ago, your cell phone was literally like a purse you would hold. Yeah. And then you had your phone. And it was this huge contraption you had to carry around.
Like a huge antenna.
Yeah. And now we have a phone that can fit in your pocket.
Exactly. So it's just like rapid technology and they're still staying like how they have always been, which is honestly impressive.
There's this thing. I read it or heard it somewhere, and maybe I talked to you about it. I can't remember. But it's like a week-long thing that you can do where you go visit like an Amish like town, and you like do like the Amish life for a week.
That's crazy.
It would be kind of interesting to see. Wow. It would be a culture shock, and I think it would be kind of cool to, you know, just disconnect from your phone and be away from it and wake up when the sun comes up and like kind of do the physical stuff to live.
Yeah.
I don't know if
like
I could
it's just so simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's why like this story is so upsetting, is because like these girls were so innocent. Yeah. Like kind of in this bubble, and then he like totally ruined that.
And use technology and stuff to do it. Because I'm sure that the Amish people don't like, I mean, I don't know anything about it, but like maybe like the gun thing, like, you know, do they have guns?
I don't know. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I think like before a certain period, they don't use anything made after that period. And guns are not, I don't know how old guns are.
Guns are pretty old. Yeah. But I feel like how advanced guns are. Yeah. You know, like when our founding fathers wrote the Constitution and stuff, it was like a musket ball and it would take like 15 minutes to load something. And now we have automatic guns that shoot like 1 million rounds in a second. Yeah. Which is insane. Yeah. They did not know that was going to happen. No, they did not. Just saying. Back at the schoolhouse, it was demolished on October 12th, 2006, so the week following the shooting. That was quick. And the site was left as a quiet pasture. Aww. The New Hope School was built at a different location near the original site. I love the name. I know. It's such a perfect name. It was opened on April 2nd, 2007, precisely 6 months after the shooting. Mm-hmm. The new school was intentionally built as different as possible from the original, including the style of the flooring. Mm-hmm. And by the way, like Amish people build all their own stuff, so they built this schoolhouse. In the end, the Amish community was able to heal together from this tragedy, and I think a big part of that was being able to forgive. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. You have had some heavy cases, Nora. I know. I'm going to calm it down next time. I can't handle it. Well, that was really good. That's something it's weird. Like, these are things I've never heard of. I know. There's so many things out there. Mm-hmm. And it's like not that long ago. Like, I mean, some things happened long ago, but some are so recent. People in Pennsylvania, did you know about this one? I'm curious. Well, as always, we end it by asking you to send us any creepy stories or any killer encounters or just anything to a scarystatepodcast@gmail.com. And follow us on Instagram at a Scary State Podcast, and also rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, please. Please. Thank you. And with that, stay scary. Stay safe.